organize our entire week. So that's why we're talking about how to deal with uncertainty today, because that has been my whole week.
I feel like that's been my life. but
I know, right?
It's a very good topic, because every single person has something that pops up, whether it's family or health or what, like floods or storms or whatever's going on in the world, and we have to pivot or something in a flash. So it's not about preparing for change, it's about what do you do when stuff just goes on. So as you know, Jenni, my husband's off for an operation today, and so I'd said to you, I might turn up to Bite Size or I might not, because it all depends if I'm going to film it from in the van after I've dropped him off, or what time to be there, etc. As it goes. I found out late last night I could actually be here this morning and go after. But it's just one of those things. You didn't panic. You're just like, cool. If you turn up, that's great. If you can't, that's fine. I'll just carry on. And I think it sums up perfectly the attitude and the mindset that you need to have to be able to cope in this incredibly uncertain world.
Oh, I completely agree. And I find it really funny, I guess, for me, because I've always had this kind of, I don't know, I use the term ability, but I don't think it's like any particular ability, but, able to just pivot on a dime. So someone says, hey, you need to go and present something. I'm like, cool, what do you want me to talk about? Give me 4 things and I can talk about it. And if I don't really know the answer, I'll work it out. And I've been always able to do that. So when I see people who, when they're going on doing a presentation and they need to spend 85 hours preparing, I'm not talking about general prep that you do if you're doing a speech or that kind of stuff, where of course you're going to practice and you're going to write your content and make sure that it's like amazing. But I think in this current environment, the ability, or creating and developing the ability to just be like, I just know my stuff well enough. I'm confident enough in who I am that if you want me to talk about a topic, I will talk about it. I will make it work. We will use the crowd. We'll do whatever we need to do. And I just find that natural for me. But I'm realizing recently how hard that is for a lot of people. And I know with last week, there's an amazing woman that I work with who's an incredible consultant. She's amazing at her job. But when it comes to presenting programs on Zoom, her mind goes blank and she freaks out. And I don't know how to use the polls and I don't know how to do this. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do there. And she gets like analysis paralysis when it comes to doing this. And the result is I can't do it. But because she's so worried about that, you don't say it. And then I get a call going, so can you rearrange your week and deliver an 8-hour workshop for us online over 2 days? How's about it? It's like, sure. But like, I can do that. I'm like, cool, let's do that. But I know a lot of people would really struggle with that. And I think it's a really important thing to say, it's okay if you screw up. It's okay if you don't get it 100%, but start to get uncomfortable in that uncertainty.
I think it's so good when you recognize that it's actually one of your superpowers. And because I'm similar in terms of I can just wing it and just get going with it. It's something that I know that needs to be done. And, I've got a million topics that I can talk on. But it's the same as writing. Like, I don't understand when people get that, in a way, I guess, writing paralysis or whatever. Yes, I could get writer's block and be like, oh, a little uninspired or whatever. But it can just flow and I can just pull it out at any time, or ideas and things. But that's not the case for everybody. And I'm similar when it comes to numbers. I've really got to sit and think and really work stuff through, whereas my husband is just a calculator brain and just goes, yeah. It's just extraordinary. So we all have our different superpowers, don't we? So you and I, it's really important that we can acknowledge that for some, it's really, really tough. And it can create a lot of anxiety in planning and preparing for stuff. But the whole issue is, at the moment, with the way the world is going, we just don't have that luxury all the time, so that we can actually prepare. So I'd like to give an example of 2 things. One of them is Canva and one is ChatGPT. So Canva came along and graphic designers literally lost it, going, well, not all, obviously, but many going, that's it, we're no longer needed. We're not going to have any work anymore. And still to this day, I hear that a lot from some of them, just going, they killed my business. It's like, no, they didn't. You could pivot. You could actually start thinking about who is your client. Your client isn't the client that actually thinks, oh, well, I can save $1 and do it myself, because really your client is the one that still needs amazing packaging designs and amazing whole creative concepts around their branding, etc. So there's a whole lot of stuff out there for graphic designers, including working with Canva, creating templates for them. So a lot of different options out there, as well as you can still train people in how to design and things like that. So I think that it's a case of just looking outside the box. And then ChatGPT, I'm just hearing endlessly from people freaking out, saying, you know, that are copywriters and SEO people and stuff going, well, there's no more jobs for us because now there's a robot to do it. It's like, no, it's 100% not the case. So
no, that's right.
Yeah, and obviously there'll be a gazillion. I mean, those ones are just the two that keep glaring at me, but there'll be loads of other ones out there, I'm sure, where people go, oh no, something's come along to replace what we do.
And I think the challenge is not actually about necessarily saying, well, what do I do? How do I operate? You know, it's actually just about being uncomfortable to say that it's how we run our business is constantly changing. And this idea that we have a business that is, you know, ABC every day, all day, even whether it's a product sell, whether it's a consulting business, whether you have a fairly structured program, there's always something that's going to derail you. That's always something that's going to come in and say, I know you had an appointment at 10 o'clock, but now that's moved to 1 o'clock, or your 1 o'clock is now at 10:15. And all this idea of I had to have these hours of planning, I had to do all this prep, we need to start responding to say, and actually start owning our own strength. And, you know, to your point, for me, that's, you know, that's being able to pivot, that's being able to just talk about stuff because for some reason, that's something that I can do well. But I also don't stress about change. And I think we've had so many years of constant frustration. Instead of people being comfortable in that uncertainty, I think it's actually going the other way. I think they're actually becoming more, they need structure more, and they're becoming more dependent on structure because it's the only way they feel they can cope in this kind of uncertain environment. But in fact, all that's doing is making that anxiety and that potential stress even more. Instead of saying, you know what, we're in an uncertain world. What happens today, what my diary looks like, I can plan my diary to the nth degree, which we both do every week, and say, this is what our plan is. But things are going to change. Like I was going to go into an office of a client today, but I've got a builder coming in. He said he needs me here because there's some stuff that he can't make a decision on without me being here. So I had meetings booked, face-to-face meetings booked, and I've just gone, okay, well, I can't do that. Now I could stress about that. I could be like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Or I can go, you know, things have changed. We can do it on Teams. We can do it on Zoom, or let's just reschedule to Monday. What works for you? And just be okay with it. And I think that's the bit we still haven't quite grasped as a broad kind of industry or business kind of ecosystem, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. Just having that what is it, Jenny? That mindset maybe where it's actually going to be okay to shuffle things around. I actually got a message from a client last night who, she's just glorious, and she sent me a message and said, oh, I just noticed that your next meetup for Positive Passionate Businesswoman is on your ukulele night. What are you going to do? And I said, wow, I've scheduled my whole year of Positive Passionate Businesswoman, you know, and I've got each speaker locked in and etc. So unfortunately, I'm just going to have to miss a whole lot of ukuleles because I didn't know about that before. No. And she said, it's your business though. And it's you're the boss. So why don't you move all of those? Those were not exactly her words, but I was just like, thank you. I really needed to hear that because it's my one thing each week that I've only been to 3 so far, but I'm absolutely loving it. So she's dead right. Those things can be changed and moved and shifted.
And I think that's the exact point, is recognizing that as a business owner, whether you're a side hustle entrepreneur, we talked about the different levels of business, it doesn't matter where you're sitting in your business. If it's your business, you get the power to control how you show up, how you respond to the change. You're not dictated by these traditional structures anymore. You're no longer having to follow someone else's plan. And even if you've got a really structured approach to life, there's opportunity for you to grow as an individual, to say it's actually be okay to flex and play in the gray, to play in this uncertainty and be comfortable in it, because it's in that uncertainty that we start to push our boundaries and we start to kind of go, oh, actually, there are things that I didn't want to allow myself to do that I'm now realizing how amazing I'm at it and how comfortable I'm at it, because we're so scared. And that's a fear thing. We talked about fear many months ago about, how fear paralyzes us. But if we start to play in uncertainty and be okay in it as business owners, as humans, we grow so much more and we become more comfortable with life.
Absolutely. It's true, isn't it? I just pulled up her message because I thought the words were so perfect. She said, remember, you were in the control seat. Shuffle them. And that's the same no matter what is happening on out there. You're in the control seat. Yes, there's other external factors going on around you, but it's your choice how you then go forward or change or pivot or whatever, how you're going to make sure that that happens in as positive a way as you possibly can.
And the best word that you said then was choice. And that's the piece we forget about, right? When something comes like you saying to me yesterday, I may or may not be able to come to Bite Size on Friday. And I'm like, cool. I have a choice to say, well, actually, if you're not going to be here, well, if it's you may or may not be, I don't really want to play in that space. Let's just postpone this week. We could have done that. And that would have been perfectly acceptable because I love doing this with you. We like having the kind of duo thing going on. Or I could have said, like I did, if you turn up, that's cool. If you pop in 5 minutes in, 20 minutes in, or 1 minute beforehand, that is going to be fine. And that's about me going, I'm comfortable in either scenario, and we will both respond with either scenario. It's like when we planned doing this podcast, people ask me, are you scripted? I was like, have you listened to it? Clearly we're not scripted. But by being scripted, it restricts the conversation, and we can't have a dialogue. We can't have banter because it's like watching a sitcom or a drama show where you're like, I know what's coming next because it's so formulaic. If we just allow yourself to kind of be like, hey, come and have a chat, I think we get better gold, but I also think it allows us to have a true conversation and be like, far more impactful in the words because it's coming from our heart and our soul. It's not coming from a script that we're trying to follow.
Absolutely. I totally agree, Jenni. And what about illness? That can strike at any moment. And so, for example, last week for you, really, I was thinking the other day, crikey, I've been really, really lucky. I haven't actually been sick at all for quite some time now. But it's a real nightmare when I am, because then I've got to shuffle clients, and it's not like the work disappears. It's still going to be done, and you just got to piling it up for when you're suddenly feeling that little bit better. But again, who's in the control seat there?
And I think it's control seat and it's choice. It's about saying, how are we choosing? What are we doing to enable us to continue growing the business and thriving the business? So whether it was, way back when we couldn't do face-to-face meetings and organizations, you went, actually, this is perfect for me. For me, travel is actually difficult with my family situation. And also I lose 2 to 3 hours a day of coaching time. I'm going to pivot online. And you just took the bull by the horn and went, that's what I'm going to do. And we're going to pull online. And actually your business has thrived as a result of it. But we often see uncertainty and change as risk, as a challenge, as a potential loss to the business or the negative effect. But living in change and uncertainty and adapting and just responding to it gives you that choice to bounce forward. I used to say this when I used to do a presentation years ago about building resilience. And I said, everyone talks about bouncing back. And I was like, have you thought about those words? Bouncing back means you're actually going behind where you started. So I'm bouncing backwards. Why would I want to bounce backwards? I want to bounce forward. I want to be in a situation and I want to bounce forward, not go, oh, this is, taking a step back. And I think our language becomes really important in this perspective. So, today I just bounced forward. I got in, and then you messaged like, I'm going to be there. And I was like, woo, we can do this great, right? But it wasn't a paralysis. It wasn't a kind of like thing that stopped me going, well, it's not going to be as good. I don't know what I'm going to do. And that comes with age, that comes with confidence and experience. And I totally understand that. But that experience has to start somewhere. So the excuse, I don't have the experience, I haven't done it before, I don't think we can use that anymore as humans. I think we can now say, you know what? No, I haven't done it. I'm a little bit scared, because it's okay to say that now in public. and I'm still going to do it anyway. I'm still going to get up and do it. It's like Brene Brown's, not Brene Brown, one of my favorite artists who's, I can't remember right now, who talks about, I can do hard things. You can do hard things. You can get up and do it, and and whatever happens.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter, right?
I think you mentioning choice, that's absolutely vital there. And so that you've also got the choice around the language. And so I think that language piece is so important. You talked about the bouncing forward, which I love. We had a lot of fundraising happening for us that we didn't even know about when my husband first had his accident, and to help us build a purpose-built house, for wheelchair accessible and all that kind of stuff. And I was very overwhelmed initially with, how am I going to be able to pay that back to the community? I mean, not that anyone asked for it back, but how am I going to find a way to pay this back? And then I really, really quickly realized it's not about paying it back ever. It's about paying it forward. And we've then spent the last 15 years finding different ways to pay it forward.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly important. I will do that for the rest of my life, because I just feel like, obviously there's a whole lot of people out there in the world that need help in some way. And if you can do something, then do something. So language is so incredibly important. So I could have either stayed stuck in that mindset of, I can't ever pay it back. All I had to do is switch that one word and woohoo, let me look for opportunities to pay it forward. And that felt really, really good. So I think choice and choice of words is everything.
And I think it's all of those things that we've talked about: having the right mindset, building some resilience, building a little bit of armor that allows us to kind of flex, not keep us so rigid. And we talk about structure. Like I always talk about business structure. You talk about kind of process that you use when you're coaching people on building their digital marketing strategies. But that structure is designed to work for you. It's not a structure like a house that has walls that don't flex. It's really around saying, how do we build a structure that allows our business to move and change depending on the environment, depending on our clients. When something pops up and it's a massive opportunity, what are you going to do? Are you going to say no because it's a little bit scary? Or are you going to say, actually, I'm going to do it, and we're going to find a way through the mess? I know it's going to be hard. We're going to be working extra hours. I might have to get more resources, but the opportunity is there. And if we stay in this structure place and we don't want to play in uncertainty, we're never going to be able to grab those opportunities that say, it's going to be hard, but you know what? Let's try it anyway, because that's 100%. What we want to do for our business.
Absolutely. And what about also when times are a little bit tough financially? If sometimes I'm just not even in the mood to think about, dare I say it, because I hate the word sales calls, for example. So that's fine. So I can either put my big girl panties on and go, I just have to go in and get a part-time job. Or actually, no, I know exactly what's going to help my business get back on track, and I need to do X, Y, Z in sales calls or whatever each week, or put myself out there, or do lives, or offer a workshop, whatever it is. No matter what your business is, you have the choice to start drowning in that scarcity mindset and actually things are really bad at the moment, or flip it and go and get a job.
And also it's accepting all of those situations. Choice, being in control, but also accepting where you are. Like, we've had a phenomenal year, but all our clients front loaded their contracts. So quarter one of this financial year was phenomenal for us. Quarter two has been pretty scarce. And I'm going into we're in middle of quarter three going, oh gosh, because we front loaded and back loaded all our contracts. So we know at the end of 30 June this year, we're going to have grown probably at least 20%, which is amazing to know that 7 months into the financial year. But we also know that we're front loading and back loading the year. So the middle of the year is a little lean. So what do we do? How do we play in that space? How do we actually respond? And again, we could do that idea of like, oh, it's a bit lean, let's go get a part-time job, or let's get something to supplement. Or we go, okay, what are some short-term contracts? What are some short-term opportunities that that have been playing around the edges that I've just left, that I can actually grab hold of and say, I'm going to go do that piece because it will actually help us through this kind of cash flow downturn? Or what can I do to pivot my business or to change my business model right now to enable me to do that? I'm still having calls. I'm still meeting new clients. I'm still spending money. I'm still running a business. But we just have to go, okay, well, how we do that has to change for a couple of months. And then when we go back in the next couple of, when we, get into that kind of high cash flow space, how do we manage that to ensure that this time next year, because it's always a quiet time for us in terms of cash flow, how do we respond to that? And so, and I know in a couple of weeks, we're talking about how to pivot our programs online to actually avoid some of these cash flow issues and build sustainable recurring income at scale. But until you get there, there's always going to be this space of like, okay, well, where do we play? What do we do? So being comfortable and accepting of that, I think is so important.
So I think it really boils down to where you're at in your head. So mindset, resilience, all that kind of stuff. If you actually have the ability, or everybody does, obviously, but you need to actually turn that switch on to say, I'm going to find a way to look at it positively and move forward, because I do have choices.
I love, so that I'm writing that down. Turn that switch on. I think that's the challenge for everyone, is to say to people, we all have this ability to be comfortable in uncertainty, to pivot, to respond. We actually all have this ability. Everybody has everything they need on a daily basis to survive and thrive, right? It's just a matter of whether we choose to turn on that button inside our brain. And I think that's the challenge to everybody in business. And even whether you're working in, as I said, whether you're an employee or owning the business, how do you actually turn on that part of your brain and that part of your mindset to say, I'm okay in this space and we're going to do it anyway, and we're going to lean in, and all those great words that people say. And it's Glennon Doyle, who's the lady who I remembered. But that I love that. That's turn the switch on. I'm going to put that on my wall, because that is really important. We all have the, my brain is now thinking of this amazing electrical current, right? The light switch is there, the bulb is there. We just need to go along and flick it and be prepared to see what happens when we do.
Absolutely. I totally think it just comes down to being positive in ways that you can make changes. And if you are stuck in that negative mindset, and again, that's turn that blooming positive switch on. I've had this thing going on for years and years and years and years and years. And I know a lot of people can say it, but they don't actually do it. But I've been doing it ever since my husband's accident, probably a good couple of months into it, because I was, not drowning in the crazy of it, but certainly trying hard to see the way forward, maybe. Yes. So really realize for myself, if I do not think about something good in every day, or something positive that I can focus on, or something I can be grateful for, I'm actually not going to get through this. So every morning I would wake up, and the absolute first thing I would do would say to myself, what am I grateful for today? What have I got to be positive for today? And often it was hard, so hard. And all I had was, well, I'm lucky he's still alive, or I'm lucky that I was able to have a child. I lost a baby 2 days before his accident. So I was really in a very, very, very different mindset. I could have literally just drowned in amongst all that stuff, but I had to flip it, turn that switch on. And I've been doing it now for the last decade and a half, of every single morning without fail. What is there that I can be super positive about? And I think that's what it boils down to.
And they're the things that define us, aren't they? They're the choices that we make. And the words, and the 4 takeaways for me from this chat is, we talked about control, acceptance, which is so important when you're talking about gratitude, and choice. So those 4 words are so powerful and have so much energy that you can utilize to say, how do I manage or control this situation? I'm in control. How do I accept it and look at it in a way that I actually have to accept the situation. I mean, I can't change it possibly. So how do I accept it? How am I grateful for that? What can I do to, what are the good things that in this situation, there's always going to be a piece of gold in there. And then what are my choices and what am I going to do about it? I think those 4 words now for me are going to be like plastered on. I just love that in the way that that's come out today, is that choice, control, acceptance, and gratitude. If you can have those 4 things every day in your business, in your life, then uncertainty just is something that exists. It doesn't impact you. It's not positive. It's not negative. It just exists. And I think that's the point, isn't it? We always we as humans like to categorize things because we're meaning making machines. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it going to help me? Is it not going to help me? Like, we have to put labels and categorize things. But if we just change, and to your point, a mindset to say it just is, this is the situation, this is what it looks like. Now, what are we doing about it? Rather than using that as a crutch or as an excuse or as a reason for me not to behave in a particular way.
Absolutely. I agree with you on those 4 words. I love that. And then I'm going to say, for me, it's for everyone to remember that they can turn that positivity switch on. You have the choice about how you're going to deal with the stuff that comes at you in your business and in your life. And you just can flick that switch and turn it all around.
Exactly. I love that. So I hope I hope people, when they listen to this and they think about what are the things that I'm doing in my day-to-day life that I've kind of responded to going, oh, that's bad, I can't do it because of ... because something has changed in their world. Change is not a negative thing. It's just something that exists. So let's start accepting it. Let's start using it and taking power back for ourselves in our business and our daily lives to actually thrive. So that when these things come up, we talk about, with our coaches or online, we say, we're not talking about all the negative and like, oh my God, it's all bad and the world is ending, but I'm still here. No, It's like, this bad thing happened, but you know what? This is what I'm doing about it. Like, let's start focusing that positivity switch and creating a space where there's positive energy and engagement rather than using it as something that kind of we regret later.
For sure. And remember this line, change is the only constant in life.
That's it. So true. So true. So we have to start accepting it and managing it and being grateful for it. Because also I think about change, right? Like, on the 14th of January this year, I got my partner of 6 years said, will you marry me? That's a significant change in my life. Now, for a lot of people, it would be sending them crazy. And I was like, cool, okay, it's about time. I'm really excited. Thank you very much. Now, let's get the wedding organized. Now, it's February. It's only 5 weeks later. We have a venue. We have all the bits and pieces and all the main moving parts, except me in a dress, are pretty well organized for the wedding in 5 weeks. Because it's just doing the work. It's not getting hyped up about it. I'm excited. I'm so excited about it, but I didn't go crazy about it. I didn't become a bridezilla and be like, I need to control that world. I just went, what do I need to do? Make a decision, move on and get it done. 5 weeks later, I don't have to worry about my wedding anymore. I can just enjoy it and wait for it to come up to me until 5 months before when the venue goes, so what are you going to eat? And I can have that conversation, right?
I love that so much. One of the big changes too is in your head, because you are no longer a girlfriend, you're a fiance.
I know, I still can't get that right. I still can't use that word. It seems so weird.
I love it. My fiance, I got to do that for 2 years. My fiance, I loved it a lot.
Someone said that to me. Someone said, Jenni, really enjoy the fiance. It's the one time in your life you can say, this is my fiance. He's my fiance. I'm a fiance. Yeah. And it's so weird to say that. I still say he's my partner because I forget that, oh, no, that's right. You're my fiance now. But she said this, she remembers like 25 years ago when she got married. She's like, it's one of the favorite parts in her life is that 1 year that she had between the time they got engaged and got married to be able to use that term. So maybe I need to lean into that a bit more.
Totally. It's a very romantic thing, I think. Not everybody gets married and not everybody has to. But if that's something that's important to you and you get that pocket of time,
true.
It's pretty special.
Yeah, it is. Well, I hope that's been helpful for people today. Really, the focus today was really about providing opportunity to think about how do we take advantage of where we are, what we're doing, and really let it help us and drive us and not paralyze us. And I think that's really the key, isn't it? What we're trying to do is share a little bit of kind of our experience in this space. So thank you so much for everyone tuning into the Bite Size Live Business Podcast. Kylie, it's always amazing to chat with you every Friday. Next Friday, I'm so excited. We're talking about crypto and I have no idea about crypto. So I'm like going to lean into that conversation and get so excited about learning a little bit more about that.
I just want to quickly, before you sign off, I really quickly need to say, so that no one gets at all confused, I also am not an expert in this. We have a guest joining us, Juanita Hart, who is right into crypto, NFTs, trading, all of that. And I have watched her just boom over the last couple of years. It is just extraordinary. I'm sat on the sidelines just going, holy moly. So she's joining us as a guest speaker to talk on that topic. So, and share some top tips for anyone that wants to get into it. So Jenni and I
very excited.
We are what did I say to you earlier? Something we're going from dunce to nunce on what we know about crypto, but we're going to be a whole lot wiser next week.
We definitely are. So be sure to subscribe and follow us so you don't miss any of the future episodes with us. It's been amazing to have you here for Bite Size Live Business Podcast. Kylie, nice to see you. See you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jenni. Bye.